found out what the sexiest thing a man can do is, and it is literally just understand you're crazy. Like, not judge you for it, but literally just sit there and help you and just be so calm. I will come to my boyfriend with some of the most feisty, crazy things sometimes, and he will literally just be chilling. He would just be like, "It's okay." Like, "Okay, what's making you feel that way?" Chilling, talking, and being completely like, "It's not that big a deal. You're fine." I need someone to tell me, "You're fine. It's okay." Because sometimes when people make a big deal, like, I'm used to like people like fighting back or like making a big deal about something. But when someone is like, "It's okay," like, you're fine, and don't worry about it. Everything you feel is justified, but like, it's okay. And
So honestly, pretty good. She's actually right about this. A lot of guys don't understand that girls just need to vent, right? So they just need someone to listen or half listen. It's masculine to be that emotional rock or anchor. Okay, this is something you're always going to need to do. I can't count the number of times I've had to play daddy or therapist in any of my relationships. This is just the nature of how it is. Girls will come to you with problems and you need to solve them. Now, here's where it gets tricky. This doesn't mean that everything she comes to you with is a problem that you have to solve logically. Sometimes the solution is sitting there, listening, and saying, it's going to be okay. When you do this, she relies on you as a support, and this is what makes her attracted to you. When we're talking about being nice and dependable, these are those niche moments where you can do this. Here's the caveat though. If they're expressing negative emotions towards you and blaming you, this is not the time to be nice or dependable. It's not your job to be an emotional tampon. When I say emotional tampon, what I mean is it's not your job to absorb negative emotions directed towards you. You can absorb negative emotions directed to the world, coworkers, friends, all that's okay. But if it's irrational, it becomes about you. Now you have to stand your ground, otherwise you just look like a little wimp. So keep this caveat in mind if you're ever in a situation where girl is venting towards you instead of to you.
I really felt like I needed to share this. I am turning into a podcast girl, like I would have never thought, but here I am listening to Girls Gone Bible, and they brought up the topic of masculine and feminine in relationships and stuff. And they preface by saying like masculine isn't, when like we say masculine, it's not like 6'5", plays football, will fight anyone. Like that's not masculine. Masculinity really
It is masculine. That's also masculinity. You gotta take everything that comes with it, but we'll get into that in a bit.
means being in tune with your emotions, accepting your emotions, owning up to them, not running away, like taking care of the situation. And this like made so much sense to me. They were like, you can compare a masculine man to a rock because his emotions are so strong and solid that nothing can move him. And since women are so emotional and we can come at a man with so much emotion and feelings and whatever else it is, if a man is masculine, he is so solid that you can bring those problems, those feelings, those emotions to him, and he can make them better. Not fuel the fire, not freak out, not throw in the towel, nothing. Like, he will be.
Okay, so it's a lot, but let's get into it. I think the main issue is girls always define masculinity as it serves their purpose in that moment, okay? So when they're younger, masculinity means X. When they're older, masculinity means Y, right? Masculinity is always the same. It's just that women always want to shift and change the definition as it suits them, okay? This is the annoying thing about this. Women eventually realize that they need masculine characteristics, right? They don't like the idea of it because they've been conditioned their whole lives to be against it. But then it gets to a point where they start to realize, oh, I actually do need this. And usually that realization comes post 25, generally speaking, okay? And then still for the next 5 years or so, they start to play with the definition because they say they want masculinity, but not too much. They don't want that type of masculinity. They want the other type, whatever that means. Then the definition starts to change and all this stuff, right? The football guy that gets into a fight all the time, that is masculinity, right? Masculinity is about territorialism. And it's not always a good thing from a societal perspective, okay? There's a reason why prisons are full of men and not women, okay? Is because men are territorial and it's about principle. Men are willing to die for what they believe in, okay? And that means that if you say something to a man who's hyper masculine and you disrespect him, he's ready to fight to the death in that moment to defend whatever he's defending. And to women, that seems very childish and all these things, right? But the truth is, there has to come a moment where you are willing to do this if you want to call yourself a man. There has to be a point where you're willing to fight to defend what you believe in. And this is just the reality of the world, right? The reason we have borders in countries is because of this exact concept. But somehow that's not seen as masculinity, where a guy getting on a fight on the street for maybe the right reason is somehow seen as childish and never the right thing to do, always juvenile. So the girls have a hard time accepting what comes with the package. We don't really have nearly as much of a choice because, typically speaking, right, guys aren't the sexual selectors. So in 90+% of cases, guys are going to take what they can get, right? That's just the reality. With girls, though, they can choose and they know they want a masculine guy, but then they don't want what comes with the territory of it because they're conditioned not to want it. So a great example is a guy who's super solid with his emotions. Well, now a girl is going to want him to be emotional with her only, but not with anybody else. And this is where the fantasy starts to kick in a little bit. If he's like this in general, he's going to be like this all the time, not just with you specifically and then not with somebody else. Otherwise, you're just expecting him to play multiple faces now. It's almost as if you want him to have multiple personalities. Now, I have talked about this before. When we're talking about where the progression is going, I actually do believe that there is a push and women are selecting for men that can have almost two faces, but completely sane and like not in a crazy sense. It almost seems like there's an evolutionary drive towards men being able to play one face and another face. And I know it sounds crazy, but I mean, what do you expect at this point? I mean, a guy needs to be two different guys at all times, right? He needs to know when to be this counter opposite guy, and then he needs to know when to be the aggressive guy. And it's always to serve the narrative of the woman. If you do it in the wrong context, then you're seen as a bad person, that you can't control your emotions. And if you don't do that exact action in the correct context, you're seen as a... So really, there's a bunch of unwritten rules that don't make any sense. And one of the easiest solutions to this problem is to basically play two characters, right? Because this whole being yourself idea, right? It gets into trouble because if you want to be a super masculine man, well, there's certain things that come with that territory. You're not going to take it from anybody. You're not going to have that many friends because you want to be the king of your own hill. So you're going to be quite independent, maybe two friends at most, right? These are things that come with hyper masculinity. You're likely going to want a whole lot more independence than a feminine guy. Because a guy that's super masculine, he could be by himself for long periods of time. A guy that's more feminine, he needs to have that constant interaction. So there are these different characteristics that come with masculinity that a lot of women just aren't ready to accept. And let's not even get started on the whole polygamous argument about how men that are masculine probably want more than one woman. That's a whole other conversation, can of worms that we can open, but I probably won't open it up this time because it takes away from the point.
Be able to take those emotions and like almost give you solutions for them. This is the part that I was like, oh my gosh, why is this my first time hearing this? Toxic masculinity cannot actually exist because masculinity in itself is not toxic.
There's pros and cons that come with every way of being, okay? And there has to be some sort of balance between the two. This is the whole idea of why men want femininity and women want masculinity, right? To say it's all good isn't true if we're talking from this hyper holier than thou moralistic perspective, right? But somebody has to defend the borders. Isn't that immoral, right? Somehow these masculine characteristics are always bad, except in the scenario where it defends somebody's life. Then nobody says anything about it because that's where the fantasy ends. Somebody has to physically enforce things in reality, and that's pretty much always going to be men, and it always will be men. It always was men, right? And I think when girls start to realize this on a mass scale, not just on a micro scale, like one girl here, one girl there, our part of the world anyway, will be in a better place, all right?
It is noble, it is strong, it is a pillar of the family. Like, it is so many things that it cannot be toxic.
Yeah, just like femininity could be toxic. And the funny thing about this is there's an inverted principle happening right now, right? The irony of all this is that even though toxic masculinity is a thing that's constantly being talked about, on the flip side of it, toxic femininity is the actual thing that's causing a lot of decay in relationships. I don't really like this terminology of using toxic in front of masculinity or femininity. I think it just is or isn't, right? So in this case, the feminine is prone to comparing, right? We live in an age where social media allows women to compare what they have to somebody else, and what they're comparing to is a fantasy, but we're starting to see that the feminine is weak to fantasy. So they're going to compare their own lives to a fantasy, and they're not going to have an easy time seeing that that comparison isn't real. You could argue that this is a weakness of femininity, right? So how do you deal with that? You can make the same argument towards masculinity about how masculinity is weak to, let's say, having an irrational road rage fit, right? This is something that men are weak to because they see things very much from a principled perspective and they're willing to die on that principle, right? Even if it's for something non-important or stupid, right? So anyway, you could go back and forth all day on this, but the point still stands.
So there is no such thing as toxic masculinity. Like, this is your sign. If you have a guy in your life and you're like, oh my gosh, he's toxic, but he's like, it's like a toxic masculinity. No, babe, no, he's toxic. And if any guy gets off on the fact that he's toxic, please. Okay, just thought I needed to share that today. Love you guys.
Okay, so this girl, she's basically coming around to the idea, but she's not all the way there because she still has this line which is very subjective, by the way, dependent on probably how attractive she is to the guy, right? But this idea of, oh, if he just calls himself toxic, let's be honest, man, this is all just a play on words, right? How people use a certain word can really change in definition because what was defined as toxic 50 years ago is very different than today, okay? So this idea of, oh, if some guy gets off on calling himself toxic, I mean, by today's average definition of a toxic man, something as simple as saying you can't go out tonight, I don't want you to wear that, could be seen as toxic, right? So this whole idea of, oh, he's toxic, whatever, it's stupid. This is a stupid idea. This girl, you can tell she's almost there, but she's not quite there yet. She's just starting to wake up to the reality that she probably wants a real man, but not too much of a real man because she still wants that little ounce of control.
I blocks you, that means you destroyed his life, you destroyed him, you destroyed everything for him, and he probably sees you as the devil, okay? Guys don't ever block anyone, like, unless it's really that serious. In this case, if you do get blocked, you're either crazy.
Okay, so what I always tell you guys, don't block them because they know and they register that when you block them, that they have you, essentially. They won in their head. Now, a lot of people make it seem like, oh, but it's not about winning and losing, right? You can say that, but in the end, it really is, right? It really is, especially when it comes to dating dynamics. People make it seem like it's all spiritual and all this stuff. No, there always is a dominant and a submissive, right? And if they manage to get you so emotional that you're willing to block them when something doesn't work out, they get confirmation that they made the right choice. And we can even say that it's probably true, right? If you care that much that you have to block them because you can't control how you feel about them, then that's most likely why they don't really have any faith in you, security-wise, that is. There's probably tons of mistakes you made before that point, and they already got the indication that you are hyper emotional. At that point, it's the cherry on top of the cake. You confirmed that they made the right decision. That's just the truth.
Or destroyed his life, or both, you know. And you can take this either way. You can either take this as like, oh my god, no, he blocked me, I destroyed his life, I'm such a terrible person. Or you could take it as like, you know what, that's an accomplishment. He blocked me, he was real big mad.
I swear I did not watch this video. I swear I didn't watch this video before. I never watch these videos before I record. So yeah, I mean, it is right. It is what it is, man. The proof's in the pudding. I pretty much called it because it's pretty much like AI at this point. Like you can't even make it up. I mean, the fact that I'm predicting it so accurately every single time isn't because I'm necessarily, the biggest genius in the world. But it is just so predictable when you start to look at how girls respond to things and what they covertly think versus what they'll say out loud, right? This girl is just gonna admit the truth. And yeah, she just admitted it. So don't know how much more evidence you guys really need about this.
I destroyed his life, he blocked me. Because us girls, we click that block button, like, we don't care, no hesitation. Like, I see a hate comment, I will click that block button, no hesitation.
Yeah.
I see a weird DM, I will block that weird DM right away, right? I won't even have to think about it. But for guys, it's like more of like, I'm not gonna block them because, I might need to like hit them up later. I might need to like, slide back into their DMs later. But no, if he blocks you, that man thinks you're the devil. That man really thinks you're a demon. Like, that man does not want to even, like, ever see a glimpse of you. He doesn't even want to see your shadow.
No, I think mostly what it is that he's just, he's probably so emotional that he can't deal with the reality of seeing you. I don't think it's about you being the devil necessarily. I mean, I'm sure there probably is some cases like that, but the overwhelming situation is guys block because they just can't deal with the emotions that comes with seeing you pop up over and over again. They just can't control it. One thing I do want to point out, by the way, guys, since we're always on this topic anyway, pay attention to this girl and the need for attention, okay? Notice how her hair is so conveniently organized right beside, okay? And you can see a very obvious view. I just want to point these things out because you guys need to start understanding what it looks like when girls are seeking attention, okay? This girl is seeking attention. There's nothing wrong with her necessarily. I'm just pointing it out so you guys don't start asking me, oh, well, what does body language look like? It's right here. Perfectly organized. So you can see everything just right. Not a coincidence, not even in the slightest.
Like, if he sees a shadow similar to you, he will get jump scared and run. He will, like, head for the forest and run.
Okay, now she's just saying a bunch of useless stuff. Moral of the story, guys, don't block women when it doesn't work out. If you have to mute them, do it. Whatever. At least only you know that, right? But don't block them. Don't be super emotional because they will register that and they'll say, haha, I got him. Then you're going to sit there and feel stupid and you'll be like, oh, I can't believe it. I can't see this girl anymore. She makes me go crazy. I'm so jealous. She doesn't care, man. She doesn't care, okay? She's far over that stuff. So don't block women. Mute them if you have to, and just let them sit there and watch you become better. If you like this video, guys, don't forget to like and subscribe.